When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
He likes movies, we like movies. Septum Sin versus the world. Septum Sin versus the world. Septum Sin versus the world. Septum Sin versus the world.
I'd buy that for $1.
Greetings! You're watching Septum Sin versus the World. I'm Septum Sin. I'm here with Kotobuki Jake.
Hi.
We're here with another 10 influential anime.
Yes.
Of course, last week, if you've been following along, we did my first 10 influential anime. And now we're going over to Kotobuki Jake to find out what influenced him.
Yes.
Possibly as a child, maybe as an adult, maybe somewhere in between.
Yes, who knows?
Well, we should know a little bit later.
Yes, so stay tuned. Okay, enough goofiness there. So, basically, with me, I came to anime a little bit later. As you probably have guessed from watching this channel or listening to our comments or reading our comments or anything, I rather like anime. But this was a fairly new thing, which honestly, I largely have him to thank or blame, depending on how you want to put it.
Get used to disappointment.
Because we started hanging out at college, and that was really... He kind of made a mission of introducing me to as many things as he could.
I was already deep into anime by that time.
And I, at that time, had brushes with it. But it was really around that time. And another thing that also helped, we'll get to as I go through my list. But for me, the first major influence that I had anime-wise is one that it's the only one on my list that is not in my collection. I do not own this. It has never gotten a full DVD or Blu-ray release here.
Inconceivable!
It has gotten apparently a partial DVD release, but this was actually a co-production, American-Japanese co-production, originally produced by Tatsunoko Productions in conjunction with Christian Broadcasting Network, and partly through CBN, and what was the other company that was involved? Tyndale Entertainment released the great big clamshell volumes that you could order on a monthly basis.
Oh.
And my parents did order them, and so my brothers and I grew up watching the show Superbook, which was basically a Bible adventure show. It was about a bunch of a couple of kids, a boy and a girl, and when they entered the book, his toy robot became a sentient being that went along, because you have to have a robot, you know, you gotta have
anime.
Yeah, exactly. And it really is anime. It was an American co-production, but we kind of talked in his video about Transformers being more... I didn't really consider it anime, but this one was closer to what Afro Samurai is, where it really was an anime, but there was a lot of American people funding and that sort of thing, and distribution, American actors in the case of
So probably came out in America if around the same time, if not earlier.
Yeah, pretty much about the same time. I think it was localized to both places. The first series ran from October 1981, so it actually started the year I was born, to March of 82, and the second series ran from April of 83 to September of 83. So definitely, I can definitely say that this was something that from my early days was part of my childhood. I never thought of it as anime until well after I became an anime fan.
Ah, you fool! You fell victim to one of the classic blunders!
And then I found out Superbook I was like, really? I had no
Never
idea.
Seen an episode.
I've never seen it in Japanese, and I don't know if that's possible in this country. But I did, we wanted to know what the availability is.
Yeah.
The like I said, there were those VHS volumes, 26 total.
Whew.
Apparently, they released about 12 of the episodes on DVD in 3-4 episode volumes.
Shut up and take my money!
But I've never seen the DVDs. There's a new 3D version that's a strictly American series, but the old series, there's a picture. He probably put up a better picture.
So, yeah. Mm.
But, whatever. It's, I barely remember it. I remember loving it when I was a kid, but it's probably one of those things, kind of like you were talking with the Noozles, kind of like, I don't know how much I would get out of it now, but it's nice to know it's there.
A nostalgia. You never know. Eastern Star might and
you never
Discotheque
know.
might release it.
And if they do, I will get it.
Yeah.
If only for nostalgia value. Now, one that does not hold nostalgia value for me, I actually was surprised to find out I do own it. I keep meaning to get it, and I was like, wait a minute, I do have it. And this is a series that
might be my copy of it, actually.
This, yeah, it probably is.
Because I upgraded.
So basically, influence is not always positive.
Monkey's out of the bottle, man.
In the mid-90s, one of my brothers briefly went through an anime phase. Of course, this same brother now thinks all anime is twisted and immoral and all that stuff.
Yet he showed you that one.
And yet, he also, we all watched Superbook when we were kids. But at any rate, this brother...
Very twisted and immoral.
Yes. This was a movie that he showed me and my other brother. And I hated it. Absolutely hated it.
I don't know what they have to say. It makes no difference anyway. Whatever it is, I'm against it. No matter what it is or who commenced it, I'm against it.
And I've seen it since then, and I no longer hate it, but I still think it's an incredibly weak and overrated movie. And that is the film Ninja Scroll. Which this is the old manga entertainment release. Sentai has recently re-released it, probably a much nicer version. To me, this basically is about the depth of a poorly written... Well, it's like a poorly written video game on screen where they tried to add as much gore and nudity to it as they could for shock value. That's my take on the movie. And I know that may be blasphemy to some. But the one very positive influence this one has, which I will grant, my brother managed to get hold of somehow, I don't know if he recorded it or if he got hold of a copy, he managed to record a copy of the theme song and played it a lot, because he does that. He'll get music and play it a lot. At one point, I was tortured by the mere mention of Dan Fogelberg. But at any rate, that was my first significant experience with J-pop. And that was very pleasant, because the theme to this is a lovely song. So it is an important one for me, but
violent one.
Oh man, this is a very good way to turn people off to anime if you don't know your audience.
Actually,
so be careful.
Though, for teenagers who like really violent stuff,
again, if you know your audience, know your audience. Don't try to show this to your mother to get her into anime.
Anime's not violent. Now look, Ma, anime is not for kids. Take a look at this. Would you show your kids this?
Or your grandparents or something. Be like,
For kids.
Wow.
Ugh.
And yes, please, if you're trying to get your kids on anime, don't start them with this one. So, next one was the other one that he got into. And I remember, I believe he paid $30-some for the VHS.
Oh, back in the
And
day.
and back in the day, that was what people did. And
Yeah, remember Alex? Remember? Hey, remember Ghostbusters? Oh, I remember.
I thought it was insane.
Super.
But,
Pricey.
but this is one that many people consider a classic. It is a classic, but I do think this one's a little bit overrated too. And again, I know it's blasphemous. I have another manga entertainment release here, actually. Another movie that's been re-released, this one multiple times. And that, of course, is Mamoru Oshii's Ghost in the Shell. Now, I have become a big fan of this franchise. I love Standalone Complex. And I actually like Ghost in the Shell Arise quite a bit. I like these shows. But the Oshii films are too artsy, I think. Innocence was incredibly artsy and obtuse, and it was just... This one is a good movie, but at the time, I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't primed for anime, and I watched bits and pieces of it, and I was like, the hell is it? I thought it was...
It's very pretty.
Well, yeah. I was impressed by the animation, but I found it kind of tedious.
Yeah.
And these two films together kind of pushed me away from anime until college. This one I came back around, and it did influence me after all. Again, more the series.
Yeah,
But the
series is really good.
Standalone Complex was a huge influence in getting me into action anime, and particularly kind of paranoid thrillers. Like, this one's sort of a paranoid thriller, but not quite as much.
Yeah.
But I do like a good paranoid thriller, and this one kind of helped start that. So I do consider it influential. Not all positive, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the first ones I showed you.
Yes, now that actually is going to be a theme for the next handful. And you can tell me if you think this was entirely wise to choose this particular handful.
I choose to believe what I was programmed to believe.
But the first one I'm going to lead off with, one of the shows he helped me get into, and it actually worked, believe it or not. I am a weird person.
Many of these, by the way, will actually be on my other list in the next month. So
This one, I'm a weird person. I enjoy weirdness. I enjoy insanity. And I honestly did not get a lot of this series at the get-go, and I'll talk more on that in a minute. But I did thoroughly enjoy the fact that this was something I had never seen before. And I kind of like the art style. There was one particular plot line I just loved. And I'm talking, of course, about the series Excel Saga. So the basic gist of I have the individual releases, which each one does have an interesting and appropriate subtitle. You have, number 1, The Weirdness Has Begun. So true. Number 2, Missions Improbable. Number 3, When Excels Strike Out. Number 4, Doing Whatever It Takes. Number 5, Secrets and Lies. And number 6, Going Way Too Far.
yes, it
Yes,
does.
it does. Basically,
Especially the last episode.
the gist of this series is you have Excel, who's a hyperactive dingbat who talks more than Deadpool, and I believe breaks the fourth wall the same way he does. She is like Deadpool on crack, and speed and Red Bull and just about everything all at once, and about a quarter as smart.
It's really hard to watch the dub of this.
Yes.
You've got to be a speed reader.
And Hyatt is an alien who has a very poor, or her constitution is not well suited to the Earth, and she dies frequently.
Yes, she
Like
does.
about once an episode. And Menchie is the best character in the series. He is their emergency food supply. He's a dog who wanders through the show, and the episode, there's 2 Menchie-centric episodes, and he also sings the end theme song.
Yes.
And it's great. And the 2 of them work for Il Palazzo as unpaid interns, and Il Palazzo is trying to conquer F City as a stepping stone to conquering the world, and yet somehow he trusts these 2 to do it for him. You'd think he'd learn.
Oh,
and there's also an immigrant worker named Pedro, who's like the man of constant sorrow.
Who is not in the comics.
He's not in the comics. And one of the reasons this makes my list is he did give me the first volume of the manga. I believe it was probably the first or second manga I read.
Oh.
And it was an interesting introduction to manga. The intro to anime worked better for me. This is a very strange show. One of the things I did not get on the first viewing, but actually makes it a pretty good primer, is that each episode essentially spoofs a different genre of anime. You have a sports episode, you have an idol episode, you have all these different episodes, and it actually takes a turn for the serious at the end. Very serious at the end.
Well, unless you count that last episode.
Exactly. And then the one episode where Menchie travels the world with a character who is the exact opposite of Excel, but still names him Menchie for almost the exact same reasons. That was my favorite episode. It was wonderful. This is a show that I do not recommend that you show to just anyone, because most people will think you're certifiably insane. But he lucked out, because he found something.
It's okay if you are.
Exactly. But it's a good show. It's a fun show, but it's a tricky one to start with.
Speaking of certifiably insane.
Yes. The other, on a far more serious note, another one he tried to introduce me with, one that is widely considered a true classic, is Hideaki Anno's Neon Genesis Evangelion.
That is a cool set.
It's a cool set, but it is beat all to hell. It's too bad.
It's too bad, but
really
that's out of print.
Yeah, but this is a... and then, of course, Nerve is the company they work for, and you got their emblem there on the side.
Yeah. Actually, Excel Saga is not so hard to get, but that one...
Yeah.
That one is still out of print.
Excel's out of print, isn't it?
It is out of print,
ADV,
but
it's not
as high as that one runs.
But Eva's been re-released. I think Funimation has it right now.
Yeah, the Platinum Edition was a re-release, but that one's also extremely expensive. But it has made a debut again on Netflix.
Right. And of course, this one is hugely influential. Features Shinji Ikari, the biggest pussy in anime.
Getting the robot Shinji.
Yep. And then you got Rei, who's sort of the prototypical flat character, flat affect kind of...
Yeah, definitely not flat in the other sense.
No, well, you know what I mean. Gendo Ikari, one of the biggest rat bastards in any show ever.
Asshole.
And then, I don't remember her offhand, but that's one of the support characters. And he's a friend of Shinji's who ends up piloting an Eva briefly, very briefly. There's one of the Evas. And then, of course, the famed Asuka Langley Soryu, the German pilot with a very, very, very big temper. And then, of course, the Misaki, I believe her name was, who is the apartment. Basically, Shinji and Asuka end up shacking with her. And Pen Pen, the penguin.
Favorite character.
Yes, but basically the gist of it, if for those three of you that don't know, you basically have this series about Evas are these great big mechas, these great big robots that are used to destroy angels, which have been periodically attacking the Earth for whatever reason. Not angels in the traditional Christian sense by any means, but there is a lot of Christian iconography in there.
A lot of bastardized theology.
Yes, a lot of it. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And basically, Shinji and Asuka and Rei pilot these Evas and kick butt, take names, and then it gets weird. And this show actually ran out of budget near the end. It was a Gainax release.
And you can tell.
And Hideaki Anno and Gainax, it was a very bad combo in terms of getting a show in on time and under budget. And the last couple episodes are just plain weird. And they actually put out a couple movies to retell those episodes because of that.
And now a couple more movies.
And now they've been slowly inching towards the completion. I think there's 4 parts, supposedly. They're inching towards completion of a 4-part retelling. I've seen part 2 of 4, but the retelling's really good from what I've seen and heard. But this is a classic series, and it was probably the first major sci-fi, other than Ghost in the Shell, that I was exposed to, but the first one I really took in and paid attention to. The other one, I'm just going to go ahead and toss this in here. Another one he introduced me to that's even more batshit than Excel Saga is Bo.
It says, if any of the parties participating in this contract are shown not to be in their right mind, the entire agreement is automatically nullified.
This one was, I kind of enjoyed the show, but I tried reading the manga and couldn't make heads or tails of it.
Those aren't his, by the way. Those are actually
I borrowed
mine.
these. This is my honorable mention.
I don't think you watched the whole thing.
No, I never did watch the whole thing. But this one, coupled with the Excel Saga, definitely put me... I'm sure our gaming group will rue the day that I was introduced with those two, and later Pony Dash and certain other... Because I had a thing for a while of playing insane characters.
Now, I do remember why. I have my main recollection for Excel Saga was that I had just finished watching it at the time, and it was still fresh in my mind. But Neon Evangelion was because you were way into artsy films and stuff like that, and that was the first anime that I considered really artsy.
A foreign film. Oh, the evening is saved. I like French films, pretentious, boring French films. I like French films. 3 tickets, s'il vous plaît. Ow.
And complex.
It is that.
And I said, well, he likes artsy stuff. I got to show him the artsy anime.
Yes, it is definitely an artsy anime. I will grant that.
Very artsy.
Now, speaking of our gaming group, one that has to make this list not just because of its influence to me in anime, this one was hugely influential to me, period. And that is the series, The Slayers. And of course we have Slayers, Slayers Next, and Slayers Try. I don't even know where to begin on where this one's influential. I mean, first of all, this is one of the first anime I watched, along with Eva and Excel Saga and a couple others. This was one of the first ones I watched as an anime, and I really got into it. I was like going through it super fast. I think I was like trying to borrow it a series at a time, if I remember correctly.
He had the big. I don't know. I had the big set.
Yeah, he had the big sets. This was another one that I don't think Funimation had who had it originally. Was that manga?
It could have been even. Well, it was the same type of sets that Viz released.
Might have been. I don't think it was Viz, but Funimation got hold of it, and I did not bring Evolution and Revolution R because they're much more recent, and they were definitely not part of it, of the early. But the biggest reasons why this is on here, not just the show itself, which there's a few things there. Not only was it an early series. Breeze, the opening theme from Try, was my favorite anime theme for a while. And now, Give a Reason from Next is even higher rated for me. and get along from the first one. This series, all three of those anime openers, all of them are sung by Megumi Hayashibara, who voices Lena Inverse, and they're freaking awesome songs. Lena Inverse herself is one of the classic characters. This show is full of classic characters, but she and Zelos are my two top-rated characters. But I also love Zelgadis. He's a great character, and Amelia's a lot of fun. Gowry's fun. This guy here, Reza the Red Priest, was a recurring theme in the series. You got a lot of good stuff here, but a couple of other notable things. First of all, not only did he try to introduce me to anime, he introduced me to gaming with this one. Like, we did one brief session of D&D, and then I joined, 2 episodes before we stopped with Spandex Heroes?
Oh, yeah.
And then it was a Slayers game. And he was like, make up a character for Slayers. And I actually, to this day, Slayers is my favorite role-play game. I love it. I love playing the game. And I even ran an episode, a game that I loved. There's a throwaway episode that's unique to the anime that's a Brass Rackets episode. And I actually ran a game where I did a Brass Rackets tournament, and that was a lot of fun. That was good times.
Yeah.
But
I used the person as the racket.
Yes. We had this person in the group who wanted to quote, I believe this is a quote, he wished to subjugate all weapons.
We wanted to master all weapons,
yes.
but...
So we made sure to tweak that frequently. So he played the character's sentient sword, since he was technically running the game. And I said, you need to have a pair. Somehow they managed to get the judges to rule that this was a pair, and the sword actually used the character as the racket. It makes no sense, but it's great. But the other thing with Slayers is I do wish to be a writer. I'm still working on it. It takes a long time. I have to admit my magic system borrows heavily from this series. So, just be aware of that. But, so it's an influence on my writing as well. This is just a huge one for me. So, and I love it, and I will look forward to watching it again one of these days. And then we have... He showed me a lot of other stuff. He kind of threw at to see what it would stick and whatever. And Tenchi was mixed in there,
Yep.
but I didn't really get into it early enough for that to be a huge influence. And there were a couple of others. But also, this was right around the time... This may have actually come first. My memory sucks.
Yeah.
So... This may have come earlier. I really don't remember. I do know that this came before some of the later stuff, but it may not have come before the earlier stuff. I don't remember for sure. But I think this came earlier. The other thing that got me into anime when I got into it was the fact that due to the efforts of John Lasseter and the people at Disney and what have you, Studio Ghibli made a big, well-publicized push to American localization of their stuff. They had released Princess Mononoke here through Miramax, but I had missed that. But the next one they released here, of course, was Sen to Chihiro no Kamikakushi, which is also known as Spirited Away. And this is my brand new upgraded version, which I will be watching in preparation for our upcoming video.
Yeah.
But it's a nice condensed little version. But this is a great film. I do think it's a little overrated. It is still, and has been for some time, the highest rated animated film on IMDb. And I think it's like 29 or something like that, which is not bad. And I love the movie. It's a great film. And this is also notable as the first anime I saw in theaters, which was a very I think I actually went with my other brother and saw it, which was kind of random and weird. But this is a very influential one for me. It helped show me that, and a lot of people, it helped show that anime could make for really great films.
I love it when a plan comes together.
And it was a really good kind of stepping off point into the work of Studio Ghibli, definitely. There are a lot of films they've put out, and I love most of them, and there are several that I rate higher than this one, but this was a really good introduction, and I do hold this up as a great anime introduction. It really is. It's relatively family friendly, so you can even, not your youngest kids.
That part with the pigs at the beginning, though, it always freaked me out.
Older kids, definitely. But this is just a really, really good film, and like I said, it was hugely the right time for me. Like, I was really getting into foreign films, was really getting into reading reviews and watching the awards, and then of course this became and remains the first and only anime to win animated feature at the Oscars.
Congratulations.
Congratulations!
Congratulations. Congratulations.
That hopefully will change, but for now it was the first. And
you watched it before I did.
Yeah, very good. So this was, so that could be the first one I found independently.
Well, in theory, the other two, well...
that I knew was anime, because I was well aware that it was that thing called anime. We got that. And then one that I really wasn't going to bring the whole series, but I had a big box that needed to be filled somehow, so what the hell. I have mentioned before that he showed me the movie for this series.
Second movie.
The second movie for this series, which I was in storage. I still forgot
I can show you. I got my copy.
We could show that real quick, I guess.
Go ahead and show off the
but
other while I'm...
the series, of course, I'm talking about is Ranma and Half, which that's part 1, 2. I'll go through these quickly because if you watched our best series one, you've already seen these sets. There's 3.
I won't have seen this set.
4. Yeah. This is the new release that includes the OVA and the movies, which that's a nice little set.
It is a nice set.
I might need to get that eventually. I'd like to get all those condensed ones. Set 5, 6, and 7. And of course, this one, Ranma, the first set you saw was Ranma in normal guy form. This is Ranma in girl form. Ranma and Half was very, very notable for me for a few reasons. One, it was one of the early ones I was introduced to. It was not one of the first. But I'm pretty sure I'm almost certain, this was my first significant introduction to Rumiko Takahashi, which is a very big thing because I had become a huge fan of hers.
Yeah, that's probably the first,
That became a big influence on my overall anime interest. I did thoroughly enjoy the movie. I just forgot it. And then I watched the series and thoroughly enjoyed it. But again, little bits and pieces. For one, it does boast a phenomenal voice cast of people who have, in my book, I consider like the classic. You got Megumi Hashabara as Ranko, Kape Yamaguchi as Ranma, the Kikuko Inoue as the oldest Tendo Kasumi. And then Minami Takayama is Nabiki, and I'm drawing it. Koichi Yamadera is Ryoga. And then the late Hiromi Tsuru is Ukyo. So there's that. There's also the fact that Ukyo was and probably still is my favorite anime character. And I did love the ending theme to season 5. Hinangeshi is one of my favorites. So there's a whole lot there, a whole lot of reasons why Ranma, I consider it to this day hugely important. I may do some more Takashi on the next part of this video. We'll find out. But for this week, that's the big one. And again, we're kind of in a phase right now where it's kind of hard to say precisely what I should have chosen for this particular one, because we're in that kind of nebulous zone of early ones he introduced me to that each influenced me in one way or another, and I'm kind of had to arbitrarily divide this. So when we do part 2 of this, a couple of those will continue with this theme. And one that I kind of want to do this as one, but I'm on the fence about it, so I'll just go ahead and say I'm going to split it. But this one is a notable one that I think he introduced to me primarily because I like the Harry Potter series, I think.
Maybe.
And then I think this might have been around the time you showed me Pony Pony, and you thought there were some similarities. Yeah. But another one that I was introduced to around this time, that I think it was almost the same time I watched Ranma, actually, is one that has not necessarily had the best anime treatment, and it does not have everyone on board about whether it's truly a great show or not, but I liked it. So there.
What's on a cookie?
Is the Ken Akamatsu series Mahou Sensei Negima, which of course features a bunch of people here. You've got Asuna, you've got Eva, Evangelion, A.K. McDowell, rather.
Not Evangelion.
Yue, and Konoka, and Setsuna, and Honya-chan. Oh, geez. What is her name again? I feel really awful there. That's like, I know they called her Honya-chan.
So I have bad memory of
my
names.
memory is not good tonight. But basically, this is like a kind of the split edition. I don't have the really awesome box set that he does. I might eventually condense this just to... Sentai has released it in a single condensed packaging. But basically, Negima is an odd creature. It's a very odd creature. And one of the reasons why it's kind of... It's kind of all over my anime viewing and influentially, but it's hard to point to any one particular release and say, oh man, that was an awesome show. Because the first one faithfully adapted the manga right up to halfway through the Kyoto arc, and then they went off, like they did a 180. They ran out of manga, and instead of doing a couple episodes of filler, they went off and did a completely weird anime original ender that was tonally totally different.
It got really serious.
It got dead serious, literally.
And now for something completely different.
And then they did a remix that was just fun and goofy, and it took all the character quirks and ramped them up to the nth degree. Like, this character has an obsession with strange drinks that they really played that up. In
a good way.
In a good way. They really played up her fear of men and all that kind of stuff. And but basically... Then they did a handful of OVAs that were specific pieces of the manga. But the thing is, most of the anime focus on the show is a harem, which is kind of, it's almost a reverse, it's not a reverse harem.
No.
It's almost a Shotokan harem because Negi's much younger than the others.
I can't believe a convicted felon would get so many votes and another convicted felon would get so few.
He's like 10.
He's 10. The girls are like 13, but, still they look a lot older than him. Most of them. A couple of them look his age. And Eva's several hundred years old, but, you find out reasons why. But the manga morphs into something different. It becomes a straight-up shonen action series, and I'd really love to see a manga version of that. But this is notable in part because it influenced me to read a very long shonen action manga. Yeah. But, again, some of the characters have influenced characters I've played in games. They've influenced some of the characters that I'm writing. There's a lot of influence here. For me personally, I love the show in general. Again, we're getting into an area where it was hard to pick what the high influences were, but I do think this definitely needed to be on there somewhere. And last one up for this go round, again, I kind of arbitrarily made the cutoff. And I basically decided to do this partly because this was another early film I saw. This was one that really showed me that anime could really tackle heavy themes, weighty themes.
Who knows where thoughts come from? They just appear.
And this was one that but it also is, as Roger Ebert says right here on the cover, it belongs on any list of the greatest war films ever made. I fully agree. And I'm talking, of course, of Isao Takahata's classic Hotor no Haka, or Grave of the Fireflies. This is actually a Central Park Media release. This was one of the few DVD releases, I think, that they did. Which is kind of cool. I still haven't upgraded this to Sentai's release, but I'm not sure it is an upgrade. This does have a lot of bonus features on it. So, and I need to watch them one of these days. Maybe when I'm doing research for our best movie list. But basically, if you don't know, you'll watch that list and you'll learn more about it. Pretty much follows these two kids, Seita and his younger daughter, sister. Could not think of sister. I don't know why. And I think her name, isn't it like Setsuna or something like? I can't remember what it is. It's whatever. I'm drawing a blank. But basically, they're two semi-orphan children. I say semi because they have family, but the family doesn't want to take them in. They've lost their parents, and they quickly wear out their welcome at their aunts, basically. They end up going and living in the countryside during World War II, and it does not end happily.
No.
But I do think this is truly one of the great war films, and one of the reasons why why I think this is influential, it says on here somewhere, I think it does say on this case, trying to find out where it says it. There was something about, yes, it says here on the back, Best Animated Feature Film, Chicago International Children's Film Festival. And I remember thinking, holy crap, what sadistic person shows this to their kids? And I remember remarking this to a Japanese friend of mine, and she's like, oh yeah, I grew up with that movie.
Well, actually,
and I was like, okay.
It makes sense when you go along with the background of the film.
Oh yeah.
But only in Japan, because a lot of it was done specifically as a piece to instill values in the youth of Japan, to show that, you need to be hardworking, a lot of the people were kind of taking things for granted, and this is like, you shouldn't be taking things for granted.
Yes.
I mean, don't try and do things the easy way.
Right.
Because technically, he had left the house because he was not willing to do a lot of his part. He did not want to do the work. He wanted to stay with his sister.
He felt that his aunt was being too hard on them, and And that it's that Japanese mentality of, you try to do things the easy way, you end up paying for it. Oh, he's over there again.
Those kids.
And it is worth noting as well that they did release this. Miyazaki released My Neighbor Totoro, which is a full-blown family film, the same day that this was released. They did that on purpose. But this one, I do think, even in this country, I do think this film should be a required viewing for high schoolers. I don't know that I would recommend pushing it on younger children, but just like, I think it's a great counterpoint to Schindler's List. But to me, like I said, it was hugely influential, partly because of showing what the power of an animated feature. This is still my favorite animated feature. I wouldn't say favorite. I think it's the best animated feature, and it is a very top ranked for me generally. But also just that little eye-opening exposure of, wow, the youth of the U.S. and the youth of Japan really do have different backgrounds when it comes to...
Yeah.
I really think we do coddle our kids too much in terms of, oh, you couldn't handle that until you're, I do think there's a lot of that going around. But at any rate, this was, like I said, I'm tentatively picked that as my dividing point. Next time we get into this, obviously, I'm sure he will have more contemporary anime than before. Mine will be a continuation of more contemporary anime, but
mine will be all contemporary anime when we get to my second one.
Yes, but so tune in for that. And as always, I hope you like this. I hope you subscribe and like and all that fun stuff. And let us know, what your thoughts of what were some of your early influences, and do you think we're insane for having some of the
Did you watch Superbook?
Yes. Or did you start with Excel Saga with no other
or maybe Ninja Scroll as a young child?
Yes, something like that, which actually may be the case in some cases. All right, so that'll do for me,
and we will see you on the next one.
Goodbye.